Hello and welcome to episode 135 of The Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam.
I'm Sahil.
And we spent the last two or three episodes saying that, hey, we got six strong playoff teams. The playoffs are a total crapshoot. Really, every week is a total crapshoot, but especially the playoffs. Any small margin can flip a matchup and make a champion or lose a championship. And any of these teams can beat any of these other teams. And we really saw that this week. Way to be proven right.
Yeah, we really saw that with a big Yuki win over Anthony. Congratulations to him. Definitely our matchup of the week. And then there were two other matchups too that, were pretty solid, I guess. They were kind of the side pieces here. You and Erik both lose.
Yeah, how about that? And we have Erik coming on later in the episode. We're going to now we've already recorded this segment, but you interview the two of us about our tragic defeats here. It is a fun segment. Anyone who likes some good Schadenfreude will definitely have a good time skipping to the end here if you don't care about the rest of this. But we're definitely going to talk a lot about this matchup, about these matchups here, because Andrew and Ruthvik really were deserving winners. They played their hearts out, and they're going to the semis, and me and Erik aren't.
Yeah, it is. Who could have seen this coming? I mean, I picked Ruthvik to beat you, but I certainly did not think that both Ruthvik and Andrew would win. I thought maybe one would win, but it was hard to envision a scenario where both you and Erik lost. And this kind of gives me the vibes of, remember the 2021 semis? You and I are the top two seeds. We thought that we were both going to win and meet in the finals, and we both lost. It's kind of what this week felt like, at least to me on the outside, kind of looking in here. I don't know how you feel about it, but
Yeah, no, I mean it never goes how you think it's gonna go. Like you never win the year you're quote unquote supposed to win. And this may be a rant I come back to because it's one I've kind of formulated, but like I don't know, you win when you win, and sometimes that's not when your team is like quote unquote supposed to win. The teams that are supposed to win don't win. And sometimes you're on one end of it where you're making the upset, and sometimes you're on the other end when you're um the victim of the upset.
yeah, I mean, stuff happens. It's truly a game of inches here, or centimeters, as you described it. You went all metric on me in one of our chats earlier this week. Eurocam, as I like to call you. I mean, I still remember little decisions or things that happened in different games that affected different matchups, and certainly stuff like that happened this week, which we're going to dive into here. Do you want to rip the Band-Aid off and go with your matchup first?
Yeah, we'll talk about my matchup first. I lost to Ruthvik. I could not drive in a run on Sunday, and that's what did me in. I had guys come up with bases loaded and multiple runners in scoring position all the time, and I could not drive them home. Meanwhile, I think Cal Raleigh had three bases empty singles, and the only run I drove in was a solo home run by Jonathan India. It just didn't happen, and I kind of, as soon as Alec Boehm struck out with the bases loaded, that kind of, you know, felt like that was it. Um, and as it turns out, I would have needed a quality start, which I did not get from the guy I streamed. But yeah, no, I didn't have it this week. I played well. I streamed well. I had a fantastic two games from Willie Castro, who homered and scored a couple runs and doubled, and a really decent week from Vlad. Eddie Rosario, another pickup, was fantastic for me. Um, Taylor Walls went 1 for 2 in my lineup and scored 3 runs. I streamed like crazy, and Brandon Nimmo would have, or he hit 3 home runs. Jeff McNeil stole a base. Like I played this really well, and we're gonna talk more about my team later in the next segment. And Erik's gonna talk about his team in the next segment. So we'll kind of save most of this part for talking about the teams that won. Ruthvik played great. His offense he set his runs record against me. And if he had like a regular runs week, he would have lost runs. If he had a regular on base percentage week, he would have lost on base percentage. If he had a regular steals week, doubles week, he would have lost those categories. But he was outstanding in these categories, and I got to hand it to him. Um, Looking at some of his bats, Mitch Garver had a 542 on base. George Springer drove in 8 runs with a 407 on base percentage. He had a good week from Andres Jimenez with a couple steals. Hunter Renfroe went 2 for 4 in his lineup. Pitching wise, he got 15 Ks from Aaron Savali with a bad ERA. 2 quality starts from Jose Barrios. Jose Barrios absolutely was shoving on Sunday, which kind of hurt my chances there. Overall, not the best pitching performance, although Logan Webb pitched well. Matchup MVP though from this week has got to go to Ronald Acuna, who, yeah, I should have known this would happen. I spent the offseason saying, hey, he hasn't been good in 3 years. Are we sure he's still good? And God, he was, huh?
That might be the worst
That's,
take you have ever made on this podcast.
I think I'll say it wasn't the worst at the time, but
It
this is
was
an
bad at
all-time
the.
kind of.
I'm sorry. It was bad at the time, and it's even worse now.
I Well, it certainly is bad now, and I think we're gonna have an off-season segment where we talk about players we were wrong about, and Acuna will be at the top of my list. Yeah, no, he has 64 stolen bases this season. Um, yeah, no,
It's not just the
Acuna kind
skills
of
too with him though. It's like it's everything else too. He's been great
35
across the
homers. Yeah,
board. Yeah, I mean he's gonna have a
he's
70, and the average too is like it's like three something in the mid threes. I think it's 334 after today.
yeah. He kind of boomed me. This is by far his best average season, by far his best on base percentage season. Not quite his best home run season yet, but his best since 2019. Uh, by far his best run season, by far his best stolen base season. Yeah, he's never put up a season like this
Well,
before.
he's 25 and it's his first full season after the partial season last year with the ACL injury. A partial season the year before that where he was awesome but got hurt. And then 2020 was the year before that. Like this is only his second season in the majors where he's played more than 119 games. Like
Yeah, and that's kind of part of my reason thinking, hey, he hasn't been healthy. We haven't seen him fully healthy and good since 2019. I was thinking, hey, he's like a bottom half of the top 10 dynasty guy instead of like a top 3 dynasty guy. But no, I was wrong. He's a top 3 dynasty guy.
I think you called him, and I want to pull out these receipts, but I think you said top 15 in the
I
option.
think I could have said top
Yeah,
15.
I
Yeah.
think I want to pull out these receipts here. We'll get into Acuna more in the offseason, but like I want to piece together all your takes. Oh my God. Okay, so I have the Manning cast on it's Monday night, Bills Jets, and they're showing Tom Brady in a Jets jersey.
When was this? Or when was this photo taken?
They photoshopped it.
Oh, oh God.
The speculation is already running rampant. Yeah, I'm sure for those of you who all know, and I'm sure by the time this comes out, we'll have more information. Aaron Rodgers is hurt. Who knows what the extent is? Maybe it's an Achilles, but yeah, maybe by the time this podcast comes out, Tom Brady's already a Jet. That would be hilarious.
Oh my
But
God.
um, This is not a football podcast. This is a Dynasty baseball podcast. Um, Anything else you want to say about Ruthvik's team? If not, I'll give my thoughts on the matchup.
I just want to say it was a really hard fought matchup. He was winning for the first 4 days or so, but really the second half of the matchup, we were just alternating the lead every few minutes. It was really back and forth. And yeah, just congrats to Ruthvik. What a win. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll address your team first. We did a little more interview style in our next segment, so I'll kind of just give my brief remarks here. It was a hell of a season for you. The season, I mean, what you started off 6-0, things looked really good, and just the injuries hit, and the injury bug just came. It was relentless. You lost McClanahan. You lost Judge for a chunk of the season. I mean, you lost looking at other names here. I mean, Jonathan in India, Wilson Contreras had his issues. Vlad's having a down year. Rizzo was concussed. Kellenic was an idiot. Chris Bryant, I mean, LOL, Chris Bryant, but he was hurt. Clayton Kershaw was hurt. Yu Darvish ended the season on the IL. Tyler Mahle, IL. Walker Bueller, IL. I mean, I could go on and on. That's barely getting through the list of names. And I think you're right. The fact that you were able to be the 3 seed despite all of that, you had some big wins. You weren't able to beat me or Jake, but you put up the big win against Erik. You beat all the teams that you should be beating. Like I'm pretty sure you swept Ruthvik and Andrew, both of them.
I lost to Andrew
Okay.
once in the regular season, but I swept Ruthvik.
Yeah. Okay. So,
And I did manage to tie against Jake. I don't want that to go
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
unsaid.
You did have a tie against Jake, right? You beat Erik the week before the playoffs started in rivalry week, and you were just very confident about your team kind of after that performance, and just sometimes it doesn't work out. Hell of a performance for Ruthvik. Congratulations to him. I mean, I saw firsthand how his offense performed against me. I was very lucky to be able to kind of have gotten out of that one with the win. That came down to the narrowest of margins in rivalry week. And he kept it up this week. I know we give him a lot of flack for his offense as Mookie Betts hits a leadoff home run. Bless his soul. I love him so much. But we give Ruthvik's offense a lot of flack, but as long as he has Ronald Acuna, like he's going to be able to keep competitive in these matchups. So on the hitting side for sure, and we know he does a really good job of managing a pitching staff. So we'll get into his team a little deeper in terms of moving forward, but I think he's done a really nice job. Anything else you'd like to add, or do we want to talk about the other matchup?
No, I guess, yeah, just sometimes it feels like it should be your year and it isn't. And then sometimes it feels like it has no business being your year and it ends up being your year. So
Yeah, I
you
mean,
never know.
I picked you in the preseason to win a championship. I genuinely thought this could have been your year. I thought you had a lot of the young pieces together that I thought would really, take that next step, and it didn't work out with the injuries. But boy, you still have a lot of talent coming and a lot of talent on the major league roster. So looking at you, Junior Caminero and Jet Williams, and you'll like this. I saw Junior Caminero today. A player comp was a righty Rafael Devers.
Ooh, I would love to have a Rafael Devers in my lineup. I also did not know Rafael Devers was a lefty.
I was about to make a comment about that. It was about to be my exact next comment. Um,
I don't know. Aren't third basemen usually righties? Isn't that like their whole?
so usually throwing righty, but you could bat from whatever side.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, let's move on to the next matchup here. So Erik lost to Andrew. He lost to him 7-5 in a pretty epic fashion. Andrew needed 35 strikeouts yesterday in order to tie strikeouts, and he got 36. It looked like he was going to be on life support for a little bit there. It actually looked like offensively he might be able to pick up the win. Erik Erik was not really able to hit an RBI all day. Ironically, he got 2 RBIs from DJ Stewart pretty late, who you have been rostering most of the week, and was hoping for some RBIs from.
Yeah, I had to cut him because he got hurt.
Exactly.
It's just how it goes.
Then came back Sunday, did well, but Andrew really got helped out by some big strikeout performances. So he had Ranger Suarez on the bench. Suarez had 10 strikeouts, had like 6 no-hit innings before struggling in a 7th, and it kind of looked like one of those like, shit, maybe it's going to be a what-if situation. What if Andrew had started Ranger Suarez over John Gray? He would have gotten the requisite number of strikeouts and he would have won. But then came Pablo Lopez. Pablo Lopez yesterday, 8 shutout innings, 2 hits, no walks, 14 strikeouts. And then all Andrew needed was Tanner Bibby to get 7 strikeouts against a hapless Angels lineup without Ohtani. Tanner Bibby gets 8. He strikes out former Reds and Rockies legend Mike Moustakas to get that, to hand Andrew the lead. And Andrew wins 7-5. We had talked all regular season about how, oh man, there's not a lot of drama. We knew who the 6 playoff teams were going to be for a while. We knew pretty much what the seeding was going to be. Maybe give or take a spot. But it was kind of lacking some of the drama, and we certainly got the drama with this matchup.
We certainly did. Andrew came on the show last week, and he basically said he was disappointed that he had to play Erik because he's never beaten Erik, although he has beaten Erik in the playoffs, in the finals in hockey twice now. But yeah, now he's beaten Erik in the baseball playoffs as well. Erik had kind of a mediocre week. He was fine. He did set the playoff steals record, which is kind of wild. Although I bet that kind of falls before the end of the playoffs. We've been seeing teams hit 15 easily. He had some good pitching quantity, but the pitching rate stats weren't there. Meanwhile, Andrew had that phenomenal pitching week. Like you said, Pablo Lopez really carried his team on Sunday. He had a really good Grayson start and then a not so good Grayson start. Good week from Tanner Bibby, like you said. Matchup MVP though, as much as the storyline says Pablo Lopez, I'm going to give it to Justin Steele, who was slightly better. Had a slightly lower ERA, slightly lower WHIP. Also had 1 additional strikeout. But both guys plus Bibby, plus Chris Bassett really carried this pitching staff. Just a fantastic performance. I mean, he outstruck out Erik. Very, very rarely does the team get more strikeouts than Erik.
Yeah, that just does not happen that often. Erik is the ultimate kind of quantity guy in the league. Yeah, I mean, Andrew's team just rocked out. Like, he is weird. It's like, I feel like I got the sense last week when Andrew was on, it was almost like Andrew was kind of like, hey, he was happy to be in the playoffs. Like, look, he thought maybe he was like a year early. Like, this probably wasn't going to be a year, but he was just happy to like make some noise and show some improvement. And I think that was definitely he definitely should have been proud of the improvement, but I think he sold himself short here, and he was able to pull off a really big upset. And it's hard to believe, right? Because we were talking about Erik for weeks. I mean, he had won 10 straight. His team really looked like it was coming, into its own down the stretch there after a really rough start to the season. And then he loses back-to-back games at the end of season. He loses to you in the rivalry week, and then a loss to Andrew here. Um, kind of a tough pill for him to swallow to end the season here. But a great performance by Andrew.
Absolutely. Yeah, and he had a great hitting performance from Kyle Schwarber that really helped out his hitting. Um, get those uh, get those runs and doubles, and he didn't win homers, but he kept it close. Uh, he had Andrew had 10 homers. Three of them were from Nolan Gorman, and four of them were from Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, I mean they're
That's
they're on another level right now. Schwarber especially. I mean, I think Schwarber since I think it was like the All-Star break I was reading, or since the beginning of August is leading the league in home runs. Like he is killing it.
He's on a tear. And yeah, Brian Reynolds had a good week offensively as well. Not a lot of other guys did besides those three, but that was enough for him to win three offensive categories.
Yeah, absolutely. In a week where his pitching dominated, he just needed to get a few offensive categories and he was able to deliver.
He did.
This
Austin Hayes, I didn't mention. Austin Hayes had a great week too.
Yeah, he's been heating up. He already has two RBIs this week. We'll get into that in a second. Tough loss for Erik here. He has now lost two straight playoff games after winning the first eight playoff games that he played in the league.
No. How about that? Yeah, no, that's uh you never would have thought that. Yeah, that he'd lose to me and Andrew being the two teams that break his playoff streak.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly in like year one, year two of the league, I couldn't picture that. It's hard to remember you now as a losing team, but back in 2018, 2019, if somebody would have looked at that and been like, yeah, Cam's gonna be the one to break it. Or
I
Andrew.
don't know. We would have thought, hey, my rebuild worked, and it did.
Well, maybe Andrew's team even more because I mean that was the auto draft team, right? That was one of the two auto draft teams, and I mean that team is down in the.
No, Andrew's team is
Oh, that was AJ and
AJ's,
Max. Okay, but we often say that AJ
which
and
drafted, yeah,
Max, yeah,
that
we're
team
even
drafted
worse than the
worse than either of the auto draft teams.
yeah, right, yeah. So like, the fact that this team is now winning a playoff team against the winningest team in league history, uh, is pretty insane. Um, and I believe that was Andrew's first ever win over Erik.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, what a good time to get your first ever win over Erik. Um,
No, absolutely. Yeah, did it when it counted.
my goodness, yeah, no, good for him. Anything else here, or are we ready to discuss this week's matchups?
Yeah, no, I guess the last thing about these matchups is that uh, Andrew would have beaten me by a larger margin than Ruthvik beat me. Ruthvik would have beaten Andrew this week, and I would have beaten Erik. So those are alternate matchups. Those are who would have won.
You wouldn't have beaten Andrew, would you have?
I would not have beaten Andrew.
Okay, because I was gonna say that would have been really wild. If like had you lost to Erik last week, like you would have advanced this week. But
Yeah, no, I checked that, but yeah, I guess the hierarchy goes. Ruthvik would have beaten all three other playoff teams. Andrew would have beaten everyone but Ruthvik. I would have beaten Erik, and Erik would have beaten no one.
got it. Okay. Wow. Um, yeah, I mean, all four of you played your hearts out this week, played some really good matchups. I mean, I think all four of you had strong weeks. It just at the end of the day, it just only two of you could advance, and two of you.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's not like what was it, the 2019 finals uh uh where both teams laid an egg, or yeah, no, the 2019 finals where you scored 16 runs, which I think is still the fewest runs scored in a week.
I still remember that. I was starting law school. I was doing what you did, and I held on to a bunch of those injury guys, and that's where my aversion to holding on to injury guys comes from. Is from that. As if I played it differently, I wonder if I would have won. I think I lost
Yeah,
five
because Erik had a
one and
pretty
just
bad week
I
too.
what
Erik had a pretty bad week too.
he did.
But you,
It was not a good finals week, and but so that was also the last year where uh we were still able to have your like entire 40-man roster come up in September. So what would happen was that like players would get hurt, but teams just wouldn't put them on the IL because it wouldn't make a difference. So like Christian Yelich like fouled a ball off his foot, I think. He did something like in the middle of September, in the middle of the playoffs, and got hurt. And rather than put him on the IL, they just kept him on the active roster, even though he was out for the year. It cost him the MVP, which I think he would have won in 2019 had he actually made it the full season. And it cost me a roster spot. So, and obviously I wasn't going to cut Christian Yelich. But yeah, that one was a bummer. But
yeah, no, it certainly was not the most exciting finals. EBO played way better than both of you guys.
yeah,
But
the finals the year after was a lot more fun.
yeah, well, you're just saying that. All right. So
Breaking
that's
breaking news: Pete Crow Armstrong's making his major league debut right now. He just pinch ran for Mike Tauchman.
hey, all right.
Yeah. But yeah, you want to transition over to the next matchups?
Yeah, let's preview the 2023 semis. Uh, uh it's another semis with you for the sixth year in a row. For the first time since 2019, it's the semis without me. So that's kind of different. We got two matchups here. We have Andrew versus you. We have Jake versus Ruthvik. It's gonna be interesting. How are you feeling about these? Which one do you want to start with?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. It's always exciting to be in the semis, right? It's gonna be a little different this year, right? There's no you, there's no Erik. I know EVO hasn't been in it in a couple years, but they were a big part of these semifinals for many years. So it's a bunch of different faces, which is exciting. It's a little bittersweet because I always love competing against you and Erik and some of these names that have been able to had many playoff battles with, but it is always exciting to see some new faces in here. And I'm excited to see how this plays out. Which matchup do we want to dive into first? My matchup or the Jake Ruthvik matchup?
Let's talk about yours since it's the one you said first, I guess.
Sure.
You're playing Andrew. Yeah. You obviously were the number one team this year, and you just a couple weeks ago beat Andrew 12-0, and I'm sure that's fresh on both of your minds.
Yes. Both of us have discussed that today, actually. Yeah, I it was he got smacked the last time I played. I'll put it bluntly, right? I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. I also beat him week two this year, 8-3-1. I don't think that that's representative of Andrew's season. I think he's played really well. I mean, my offense went bonkers that week. I set uh two of my offensive records and almost set a third that week. I don't expect it to be as smooth sailing this week. It's hard to do something like that twice in a row. And I was already dealt kind of an interesting hand here. So, I mean, we are recording on Monday night, so we do kind of have the benefit of seeing how most of Monday has gone so far. But, if we're looking at rotations here and kind of looking at the pitching here first, um, uh, I had Brandon Woodruff go today. He got a complete game shutout. Uh, but I was supposed to have Clark Schmidt go today at Boston, and he was supposed to get a 2-start week this week. But the Yankees got rained out, and rather than have Clark Schmidt just push him back a day, they're pushing him back to Wednesday. So he is no longer getting 2 starts this week, but he will start at Boston on Wednesday. I have Max Fried going against Philly. That's not an easy matchup. I have Zach Gallen against the Mets, Braxton Garrett at the Brewers, and then the aforementioned Clark Schmidt at Boston on Wednesday. I have Kyle Bradish against Tampa on Thursday. That's going to be a fun one. Friday, I have Garrett Cole getting a revenge game at Pittsburgh and Aaron Nola at St. Louis. Saturday, Brandon Woodruff goes again. He gets a great home start against Washington. And then I currently have nobody lined up for Sunday. I was supposed to have 10 starts, but it's only going to be 9. I have 8 active starting pitchers on my roster, and only one of them is a 2-start this week. We all obviously know what happened to Julio Urias. I thought he would be the 9th starting pitcher on my roster, but he is no longer pitching. Andrew, on the other hand, has more starts this week. Chris Bassett put up a 5 1/3, 5 earned today against Texas. Not a great start. Reed Detmers is currently going at Seattle for him. After giving up 3 runs in the first inning, he settled down a bit. He's now gone 4 innings while only giving up the 3 runs. We'll be tracking that one closely. He had Kyle Wright come back today, but he left him on his bench. He got blown up for the best. Hyun-Jin Ryu goes against Texas tomorrow. And he's got Javier Assad, aka the Ass Man, playing at Coors. I think Andrew will have a decision there as to whether or not to start him. He's got nobody pitching Wednesday, nobody pitching Thursday. Friday, he's got John Gray at Cleveland, Pablo Lopez at the White Sox, and Justin Steele at the Diamondbacks. He had a great start against the Diamondbacks his last time out. That's 3 pretty solid matchups for his pitchers. Saturday, he's got Grayson Rodriguez playing against Tampa, Chris Bassett against Boston, Ranger Suarez at the Cardinals, Tanner Bibby against the Rangers. It's a little harder slate of matchups for his pitchers there. And then Sunday, Reed Detmers against the Tigers, Hyun-Jin Ryu against the Red Sox, and Brandon Williamson. So actually, Brandon Williamson is going at the Mets on Sunday, and ESPN does not have it listed, but he is actually coming off the COVID-19 list to start on Tuesday to tomorrow against the Tigers. So I don't know if that's news to you or not, but
I think it is. That'll be good for Andrew, I suppose. I think
he has options. Like he has he has more than 12 starts this week, especially with Williamson coming back. Like he can pick and choose the matchups he wants.
he definitely can. I'm not super worried for your sake. I mean, I don't love his matchups for the most part. I don't know. I'd be like, I'm not necessarily worried about Andrew out quantitying you. Although, on the other hand, if his pitchers pitch to the quality they did this week and he's able to steal strikeouts or quality starts, then you could be in trouble. If he's maybe winning these quantity categories that otherwise he wouldn't. We'll see. It's interesting for sure.
Absolutely. As we say that, Mookie Betts with the bases loaded and 1 out, just made an out. He lined up the shortstop, and now Freddie Freeman gets to come up with the bases loaded and 2 outs. I think you're right. Andrew definitely is a quantity and definitely enough solid pitchers there where he could definitely steal a couple categories. That wouldn't surprise me there. We didn't even mention the bullpens here. Like he definitely has some guys who can rack up saves and holds. Jordan Romano and Alexis Diaz are 2 great closers. Jose Alvarado, David Robertson, Trevor Stefan are kind of in that holds group. Mark Leiter Jr. is a little bit of a wild card. Albert Alzolay landed on the IL earlier today. And I wonder if Leiter might kind of factor into the saves mix a little bit. Um, so that could be another saves option there for Andrew, but that's a good mix of relievers there. Meanwhile, I'm still without Felix Bautista, although strangely sounds like he might be able to come back this year. I don't really understand it, but I have Josh Hader, Yennier Cano, and Tanner Scott kind of as save options. I claimed Tanner Scott off waivers last week when Erik cut him. They kind of speculated whether or not Erik would cut him because he was a saves guy, and Erik did cut him. And then on the hold side, I have Brian Abreu, AJ Minter, who did pick up a hold today, and Danny Coulomb, who pitched today but did not get a hold. So solid group of relievers there for both teams, and I really think those two categories are a toss-up.
Yeah, absolutely. It could end up coming down to some reliever categories and some reliever strikeouts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we both have got relievers who rack up a lot of strikeouts. I will say my team did, so I did set lineups last week just to kind of track how my team would do against the other teams, and my guys pitched really well last week, and I'm hoping they're able to keep it up. Speaking of good performances, my offense killed it last week, and I'm hoping they didn't use up all of their good juju last week. I would have broken my home runs record if I had played last week. And I wonder if that would have broken the playoff record. They would have. I had 23 home runs in my lineup last week. I mean, these guys have just been really good. Like Trey Turner has been carrying my offense now for over a month. Like Betts has been great. Freeman's been great. Altuve's been great when he's been healthy. Albies has been great. Alonso's been great. Cedric Mullins had a grand slam today. Adley's been great. Like, I mean, the whole offense, they are pretty much healthy. I mean, Christian Yelich is day-to-day right now, as is Jordan Westberg, but they're pretty much healthy, and they've been on a roll over the last month, 2 months.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Your offense is on a complete tear. No two ways about it.
Yeah, and Andrew's offense has a lot of bats that have been hitting very well. I mean, Bobby Wood Jr. really in the second half of the season has really taken off. Kyle Schwarber has been on another level. I think he's been 43 home runs already. I mean, he is nuts. Ketel Marte's been a great pickup for him. Jonah Heim had a grand slam today. Nate Lowe's been solid this year. I mean, Brian Reynolds is always good. Ian Happ. So, he has some solid bats as well. And I feel like he's definitely going to, make it a very competitive hitting matchup.
No, definitely. He can hit the ball really well.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, my team's played really well this year. I'm really confident in the guys that I do have, both on the hitting and pitching side. And I know this is a 1v6 matchup, but I'm not taking it for granted. It really, Andrew put up a really strong performance last week. He's put up some strong performances this season, and I expect this to be a pretty tightly fought matchup. What say you?
It is 1v5, not 1v6, but yes.
Oh yes, sorry. Yeah, 1v5.
All right. But do we want to talk about the other semis matchup?
Yeah, let's dive into the other semis matchup here. That is Jake v. Ruthvik. This is 2v6. First time a 6 seed has won in league history in the first round, or I guess in any round of the playoffs. Jake has jumped out to an early lead here, but let's not get too caught up in that. There's still a lot to play here. Looking on the pitching side, Jake had a Jesus Luzardo start earlier. That was not very good. 5 innings, 6 earned, pretty high whip. He has Carlos Rodon pitching tomorrow at Boston. Rodon has not looked good at all this year. He's got Blake Snell at the Dodgers and Luis Castillo against the Angels on Wednesday. One of those a very good matchup, the other not so much, but they are both been very good this year. On Thursday, Nathan Eovaldi and Kevin Gausman pitch against each other. Evaldi threw 47 pitches his last time out. Curious to see how built up he is for his start. After that, he his first start off the IL, he won 35. This one was 45. So I'm guessing he doesn't have a full complement of pitches that he'll be able to throw the next time out, but we'll see. Friday, he's got Seth Lugo at Oakland and then Brian Bayo at Toronto. Saturday, he's got Jesus Luzardo against Atlanta. That's a toughie. And Tyler McGill against Cincinnati. And then he's got Carlos Rodon at Pittsburgh on Sunday. That is, if I do some quick math here, that's 11 starts he has this week. I think there's some solid matchups in there, but there's also some that I'm a little concerned about. What do you think about the starting pitcher matchups here?
I'm not the most worried for Jake. It's interesting. We're seeing the two pitching quantity teams going up against each other. They've been the two guys them and Erik, who just consistently use 12 starters every single week. And that's kind of what their teams are known for. And it's going to be interesting to see like a 105 versus 103 strikeout semis, and both teams with like a 4.3 ERA.
Oh, 100%. I mean, as we say this now, like Jake has a 12 ERA and a 267 whip, and Ruthvik actually has this down to 372. Alex Cobb is pitching pretty nicely for him. And let's turn to Ruthvik's pitching. So he somehow survived Michael Lorenzen going against Atlanta. I said in the chat that I mentioned this one way or another. 5 innings, 4 earned. That's not bad, terrible, especially for Atlanta. What is bad is that all 4 runs he gave up came on 2 Matt Olson home runs, who Jake has. So that was pretty unfortunate for Ruthvik. Alex Cobb is pitching right now against Cleveland. He has 4 shutout innings. Maybe there's a quality start coming there. Ruthvik is streaming Cal Quantrill tomorrow at the Giants. He streamed Quantrill to success last week. As I'm sure you are aware of, he had 6 shutout innings. He's coming off back-to-back good starts. The Giants, especially in San Francisco, are not the scariest team, so that'll be interesting to see. Doesn't have anybody going Wednesday. Thursday, he's got a doozy. He's got Logan Webb at Coors, Aaron Civale at Baltimore, Mitch Keller against the Nationals, and Kodai Senga against Arizona. I think that's going to go a long way in determining his pitching week. Jose Barrios goes against Boston on Friday, and Jack Flaherty goes against Tampa. I'm not even sure why he still owns Jack Flaherty at this point. Flaherty's been awful since he's gotten to Baltimore. Alex Cobb goes to Coors on Saturday, and then he's got nobody pitching Sunday. If I do some quick math there, that is 10 starts that Ruthvik has, including the ones that he already has finished or are pending right now. So both teams, if they're going to want to reach the 12 start mark, are going to have to do a little more streaming this week. I think Ruthvik has done a little bit of that already with Quantrill. How are you feeling about Ruthvik's starting pitching, and do you think that one team has an edge over the other in the starting pitcher matchups here? Or as you said earlier, do you think that they're just both going to kind of quantity it out, and we'll just have to see how that plays out?
Yeah, I was surprised to hear that Ruthvik's not going to get a full slate of starters without streaming. Although I will say he always does find a way to stream guys, and usually to some success. So I think, yeah, they're both going to quantity it. I think I like Ruthvik's rotation maybe a little better right now.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think what makes it a little interesting here is neither team is having their top starters get 2 starts this week. So it's a little tricky. I think it's kind of a toss-up. I think I lean a little bit Jake just because I trust his top guys a little more than I trust Ruthvik's top guys. But I think it's pretty much a toss-up. for me. Ruthvik also would have to stream a couple more starters to reach 12, whereas Jake only needs to do one, and Ruthvik is already streaming one to get to that point. Um,
That's fair. Yeah.
yeah, there's also a couple guys Ruthvik has. Just I don't like Jack Flaherty really as a streaming option, and just couple other nitpicks like that. But I fully expect both of them to be streaming a bunch of starters this week. As Max Muncy hits a home run, God bless him. Looking at the reliever side, Ruthvik got dealt a hit today and also a hit last week. Andres Munoz is currently day-to-day with some minor left hip tightness. It looks like he should be back this week. He threw without issue before Sunday's game. So that's a positive sign. But Adbert Alzolay has landed on the IL. We mentioned that earlier when talking about Andrew. That's a big hit for him. Alzolay's been awesome as of late, but Ruthvik still has a role as Chapman. He's got Craig Kimbrell, who got a save this week. He's got Yohan Duran, who's been awesome. Evan Phillips. A lot of save options here, but not really any hold options. Jake, on the other hand, he's got Devin Williams, he's got Raisel Iglesias, who blew a save, and Ryan Presley. Those have been kind of his three big closers all year. He does have some holds options, though. Matt Brash, Adam Ottavino, who I don't know if he's getting more saves or holds now with David Robertson gone, but in any event, he's also got Will Smith, too, who's kind of been splitting a little bit of the end of the or back of the bullpen work with Aroldis Chapman. So I think they're matched pretty evenly in saves, but I think Jake certainly has a few more holds guys, which should benefit him. Offensively, let's move there. I think that's where you see a bigger difference. Let's start with Jake's team, right? He's got a fantastic core of Matt Olson, Manny Machado, Corey Seager, Bo Bichette just came back. Tristan Casas has been awesome the second half of the year. Kyle Tucker, Jordan Alvarez, and Michael Harris. He is missing Matt McLean with an injury, but I think that is a great kind of core of bats there that, have really carried Jake's offense all year. Any major thoughts on Jake's offense?
No, I think he's definitely got the better offense, and I think with Bo coming back too, that helps his team a ton.
Absolutely, yeah. Bo's been awesome on the year, and I that was a huge gain. You saw the 1 week against Anthony to end the regular season when both Bo and McLean were out. I mean, Jake's offense did not look nearly as good. And I think you saw the difference last week with Bo back. I mean, Jake wasn't really setting lineups last week, but just kind of looking at some of the offensive numbers, you could tell it made a difference. Looking at Ruthvik's offense, I mean, Ronald Acuna is a huge chunk of his offense, right? There's no getting around that, and the impact that he can have. He could single-handedly carry Ruthvik's offense, but Ruthvik also has some other guys. Mitch Garver has been on fire recently. Ryan Mountcastle has as well. Nico Horner. Davis Schneider's kind of come out of nowhere to be really good. Anthony Santander. Rafi Devers. George Springer's had a down year, but you never know with him. He can always, rack up hits quickly. Kyber Ruiz has been really solid since the slow start. So there's definitely some talented guys there. And Ruthvik's offense, especially the last couple of weeks, has been performing a lot better than they did through most of the season. So, I certainly think, it's going to be while Jake has the early advantage and how his team has performed today, in particular, his Braves bats have just torn Ruthvik a new one. Like, there's still a lot of room for Ruthvik to kind of come back in the offensive categories.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I agree. I trust Ruthvik's offense a lot less, but Ruthvik's coming off a 62 run week. Yeah. Like he's got that in him, and sure, it's the most runs he's ever scored in a week, but they've got that in him if guys like Acuna go off.
No, absolutely. I think overall, I do think Jake does have the hitting advantage. I do think the pitching is going to be a little closer. But I mean, I think like we said about Andrew's team, right? Maybe you consider Andrew the underdog, but he's played really well this year, and he is more than capable of racking an upset win. I mean, both of these teams, both Ruthvik and Andrew, we saw them get upsets last week. No reason they can't do it again. You and I are reminded of the 2021 semis all the time, and how you and I, as the top two seeds, got upset. No reason that can't happen again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Uh, Anything else you'd like to say about these matchups, or are we ready to go to the pick'em?
Let's pick these bad boys.
Yeah. But before we pick these matchups, let's review how we did last week. We both picked Erik to win incorrectly. I picked him to win 7-4 to 1. You picked him to win 8-4. We were both wrong. I picked Ruthvik to win 6-5-1. You picked yourself to win 6-5-1. Ruthvik ended up winning, what was it, 7-4-1?
Yeah, 7-4-1.
So I was close. So you incorrectly picked both matchups, and I went 1-1. I forget if we said that we were gonna give these matchups bigger weight in our pick'em game. I'll figure that out later. But
So I think what we do is we do regular weight in this first round and second in the semis, but you get an extra point if you pick the score right. And then in the finals, what we do is we pick each category
that's
separately.
right. Yeah, we did do that. Okay, yeah, we'll do that again. But all right. Neither of us picked the score correctly in either matchup, so it's just going to be I got a point there for picking Ruthvik. You did not get a point. That since the math here is easy, I'm 80, 35, and 7. You're 81, 30, and 11. I'm catching up. All right, these semifinals matchups, you are still ahead of me in the standings, which means that you get to pick first.
Yeah, so I don't think it'd surprise you too much if I said I'm picking the favorites. I think now as for the scores, I think Jake will win 8-4, and I think you'll win 8-3 to 1. I think it's just hard to see you not winning at least 8 categories. You have a team uh that's very difficult to beat right now.
Interesting. All right. I'm gonna pick Jake to win 9-3. I, maybe I'm overreacting to Monday, but I don't know how close it's gonna be. I think Jake's gonna cruise a little bit. And I'm gonna pick myself to win 9-3 as well. Why not? Pick twin 9-3.
We're both expecting these matchups to not be particularly close, but hey, these are two teams that beat two good teams this past week. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I am not taking Andrew for granted. I'm sure Jake is not taking Ruthvik for granted. I mean, we have seen previous instances of upsets all the time. I think we were going to do our best to kind of manage this to the best of our abilities, and not just assume that we're going to advance to next week. Uh, uh, no team will assume that here.
Absolutely not. But yeah, it's time. Let's get these semis. Semis week is always the most exciting week of the season. And sure, it maybe doesn't feel like that for me and Erik, but you've always said that you've enjoyed semis week more than finals week. And we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I there's something about having multiple teams in it that or multiple matchups, I should say, that makes it really fun to me. Not that the finals isn't fun as well, but there's something, just the more teams that are in it, the better. I always thought like in the NFL, like the divisional round. I mean, obviously the championship games are intense, but like the divisional round, like having 4 games on like 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, which is always a blast. It's just a full weekend of just intensity. Like I think having 2 matchups like that here is always hard to beat. So this is my favorite week of the season. And I am looking forward to see how this plays out. It does help that I have
All
been in semis week all 6 seasons, but it is my favorite week.
right, it is all downhill after this week. Let's enjoy it. It's the last matchup. Last time more than one team is playing it. One matchup is going at a time until April. Let's enjoy it.
Yeah, let us enjoy it indeed, and I'm going to enjoy this next segment very much. So, let's hand it over to ourselves for this interview
Yeah, with Erik.
with Erik.
All right, we are back now, and we are joined by Erik, my brother in misery this week. We both got upset by in the first round, in devastating fashion, and we figured, we're both here, kind of disappointed, kind of miserable about it. Why don't we make some content about it? That's what influencers do.
Influencer campaign. Oh my god. I can see it. I can see you doing like little TikTok dances and whatnot.
Yeah. But yeah, so the way this segment's going to work is Sahil's going to interview the two of us about kind of what went wrong this week, and what we're thinking going forward. And we said earlier in the episode that we kind of kept it positive there and kind of saving the for those of you who want to listen to some Schadenfreude, that's all down here.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sahil, you ready to get this rolling?
Let's do this. So this is episode 135, and I don't care what else happens over the next 135 episodes after this one. Like this is going to be by far my favorite segment. I never dreamed that such a segment could exist, but here we are. First off, I saw both of your reactions yesterday. Cam in my DMs and Erik kind of publicly after Tanner Bibby got the tying strikeout. How are you both feeling today? First off, let's start with you, Erik.
Yeah, not great. But we'll just move on to next year. Hopefully I can have some things go my way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's I think you hit the nail on the head there. How about you, Cam?
Not great. I feel a little better because I advanced in Gallardo. And honestly, Erik losing kind of felt me a lot of the heat came off of my team, so I felt a little bit better knowing I wasn't, the story isn't, oh, look at Cam getting upset by the 6th seed. It's, oh wow, there were 2 upsets. So it kind of took some heat off of me.
I will say I chatted Cam as soon as Tanner Bibby got the strikeout and was like, hey, do you feel a little better now that Erik lost? And Cam almost immediately responded, yes. So Cam is definitely not lying about that. All right, let's look a little broader here. I guess how do you feel that the week went for you all? Like, do you have any regrets about the way that you handled the week? Or do you think that you managed it properly? It's just, it just kind of things happened the way they did. Like, what was your feeling kind of about the matchup itself?
I think I did all right for the most part. I got 12 starters. I had some good hitting. I was able to win holds early, so I didn't have to worry about that towards the end of the week. I just think, overall, just didn't go my way, but I don't think I would have changed anything.
Yeah, what about you, Cam? I know that you were rostering quite a few IL players on your bench. And I know that you did cut one a little later in the week, Brendan Donovan, and you did cut Luis Rengifo after he got hurt and landed on the IL. But um, do you regret that decision to hold on to some of those guys throughout the week and not just cutting them right before the playoffs started? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I guess for starters, I did not cut Renhefo. I moved him to my IL when India came back.
Oh, my bad. Okay,
Um,
okay, yeah.
but no, I don't regret it, and that's because I still used all 8 of my ad drops. So I would have. I don't think it. Uh, it's not like I missed out on cutting them for someone else. I just, had I made the additions that I had to make. Maybe it would have could have been helpful to cut Donovan a day or so earlier, but I still would have had to add someone to fill a lineup spot, and and I yeah would have been missing the ad drop on the last day, or maybe a Friday ad drop or a Saturday ad drop. I made 2 on Saturday and 2 on Friday, I believe. Um, but no, I don't think I uh really had any strategic blunders. In fact, I think I played, and Ruthvik was saying this Saturday night, I really streamed well this week. Like Willie Castro killed it for my team. And I got a few good holds. Tim Mesa got a hold. I guess I would have maybe in hindsight picked up Keaton Wynn instead of Peter Lambert to stream on Sunday. I do own him now because I think he could be a nice guy down the stretch to kind of see if his value rises over his last 2-3 starts. But no, other than that, I think I truly did play a good matchup strategically. It just Ruthvik hit the ball really well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Ruthvik's been hitting the ball well recently, and unfortunately, yeah, you were just a victim of his offense performing well. I know neither of your offenses had a particularly good day on Sunday. I know Erik, I think you didn't get an RBI until like your 40th at bat, something like that yesterday. Like it looked like for a second there that Andrew might be able to take over RBIs, but he didn't. And then Cam, I mean, it felt like every time you had a hitter come up with someone on base, they didn't get a hit, but anytime you had somebody come up with the bases empty, they got a hit or got a walk or something.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how it happened. It just kind of went that way. Like and I was following live more than I normally do.
Yeah.
For matchups like this. I kind of try and avoid it a lot of the time, but I was watching live, and more than once I had 2 guys up at the same time, one guy with a runner in scoring position, one guy with bases empty, and both times, like, yeah, they would just both, the guy bases empty would hit a single, the guy with multiple runners on would strike out or ground out. It just really, I just couldn't buy an RBI on Sunday.
Breaking news: Jonah Heim just hit a grand slam. God damn it!
Ooh.
Yeah. Andrew making it interesting. Uh, but yeah, no. Let's shift over here kind of to looking at your full season. Cam, you did finish as the 3 seed. Erik, you did finish as the 4 seed. You ended the season kind of on a big win streak before back-to-back losses to Cam and Andrew to finish it out. I guess how did you both feel about your seasons overall? Let's start with Erik.
Yeah, pretty shitty at the beginning, obviously, but I knew I wasn't going to miss the playoffs, and I didn't really expect to win 10 straight, but I guess I have a team that's good enough to do that, and I'm pretty optimistic looking forward.
Absolutely. No, there's a lot that went right in your team in the middle part of the season here. And definitely, I think we all expected you to rebound, and you did nicely. What about you, Cam?
I think so much went wrong. Uh, I mean, like I said earlier, this wasn't a fun season for me, really, with all the injuries that I was dealing with. I had at one point 14 guys injured at the same time. So much went wrong. and the capper on it was I lost in the first round of the playoffs to the team whose first round pick I own. Uh, uh, a team that I thought for the first 7 or 8 weeks of the season would be giving me a lottery pick. But instead, they beat me in the first round of playoffs. Um, but I guess a brighter take on this is that so much went wrong, and yet I still managed the 3 seed, despite like a lot of worst case scenario regular season stuff happening. So, like, I guess and maybe I'm speaking too soon to say that I found my floor as a top four, as a battle between the 3 and 4 seed. Um, that like so much went wrong, and I still was never going to be number 5. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think it was a very weird season, and I don't know, and I can't imagine I'm dealing with this much adversity again.
I like the positive spins that you both put on the this season. I mean, obviously a disappointing ending, but a lot did go right. I have a question specifically for Erik here. So, obviously, you won the league 3 out of the first 4 years. Year 3, you didn't make the playoffs. It was a COVID shortened season, but you won every single playoff game that you were in the first 4 seasons. The last 2 seasons, you've been one and done. Last year, you got the bye, lost in the semis to Cam. This year, you lost your only playoff game to Andrew. Any concerns there? How are you feeling about that? Is that maybe something that's going to cause you to maybe change your approach this offseason? How is that going to kind of affect the way you go about your team moving forward?
I mean, well, first of all, just for me, after winning 3 of the 4 years, any season I don't win the championship is just a massive disappointment for me. And no, I'm not going to change anything in the way I do things. I mean, maybe I could be a little better, be a little bit more on top of it, but they're just always just fall sometimes. And I think I'm gonna definitely get not be a one and done every year going forward, but just happen twice in a row.
Absolutely. Yeah. You've definitely set the bar high. I mean, you were the only person in the league to have won the league uh, multiple times. I mean, the Jake and I have won the other 2 championships, only one apiece. You won the other 3. But yeah, you have still with that standard. I mean, you have set. There's no reason I don't think that you can't get back to that and put together some competitive teams here moving forward. That does lead to my next question, though, for both of you. So, an interesting stat that I threw in the chat yesterday. This is now the first playoffs here in year 6 where 3 of you, me, or you meaning both of you, me, and EBO were not in the final or in the semifinals. This year we have 3 faces who don't have nearly as much experience in some of these later playoff rounds with Andrew and Ruthvik and Jake. Is this a changing of the guard, or do y'all think this is kind of just a one year blip?
I wouldn't
Uh,
say changing of the guard, but because I expect all 3 of us to have a really good team every year. But I don't know, and I think everyone else is getting more and more used to being in this league and getting better at it too over the years.
yeah, no, I definitely agree. The level of competition this year was just higher than it has been. And I mean, Sahil, we've said this on the podcast right before the playoffs. Any of these 6 playoff teams could win, and it wouldn't win the title, and it wouldn't surprise us. And that's never been the case before. So it's different for sure. I agree. I wouldn't call it a changing of the guard. I think Andrew is going to have some staying power, though. He could definitely he could break into like the top 3, top 4, whatever you want to call it. Um, I guess the only real changing of the guard, um, it's interesting because like I get it. It was U2 and EBO for a while, and then I replaced EBO at a certain point, which Zane has told me before. He kind of sees me. He kind of roots for my team because seeing me win or beat you guys is like, hey, that's EBO's uh, spot, and that's still being challenged. That's awesome, which is kind of a fun way to look at it. So it was kind of me replacing EBO, and then Jake has kind of joined to make it a big four, but he didn't really replace anyone. Yeah, I don't expect either my team or Erik's team to go anywhere, at least for the next few years. So it'll be up to the other teams to knock us off.
Absolutely. No, I think you both hit the nail on the head. It's the league's getting tougher. We're getting some more competitive teams, more active teams, and it's incredibly exciting, but it also makes it a lot harder to win a championship than maybe it was the first couple of seasons where it really seemed like maybe there was 2 or 3 favorites to win the championship each year. So speaking of that, my last big question here, it's a 2-part question. How would you all predict the remaining playoff matchups? And I guess this is more for Erik because Cam and I are doing the pick'em. So I'll ask this one to Erik. How do you think the rest of the playoff matchups are going to go down? And then the second question is for both of you. Who out of the remaining 4 teams would you most like to see win the championship?
I think you're too good to lose this week. I mean, Andrew's really good too, but you just have a stacked team, and it's gonna be hard to get to knock you off this week. And for the other one, I think it could be a little closer, but I'm gonna have to go with the favorite again. I think you and Jake have been like 1-2 like the whole year, and I think it'll be a 1 versus 2 in the finals.
Who do you think wins the finals?
Oh, I gotta say you. And the other one was who do I hope wins it, you said?
Yeah. Who do you hope wins it?
I'd want to see Andrew or Ruthvik win it just so I can still be the only one with multiple titles. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I like that. Cam, you like I said, we'll do the pick 'em, so I won't make you answer that first question. But is there anybody you would most like to see win now that you are out?
Yeah, no, I want to see Andrew win. I think that'd be fun. I don't know, something about like if I saw Andrew win the title, if Andrew wins the title before me, it's kind of like, oh, hey, that's cool, Andrew won. But if Ruthvik wins the title before me, I'll feel competitive. Like, okay, come on, Ruthvik won a title before me. Um, he has like 3 bats. Come on. He also scored 62 runs against me, so maybe I shouldn't say that he has 3 bats.
Maybe it's hard for you saying that all year.
I mean, you've been saying it all year, and and you still beat him in rivalry week. So I don't know if that karma exists.
I lost to him earlier in the year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'd feel more like I don't know because me and Ruthvik were very nearly the finals matchup in 2020. Also, and we never got to see that. But yeah, no, I would like to see Andrew win. I think that'd be kind of fun.
That's very fair. No, Andrew winning would be fun, although he has won multiple M-SABR Dynasty championships already. So
That's true.
I do agree. It would definitely be fun to see a different winner start to spread the love a little bit if it's not me, but I sure am hoping it's me. And am completely unsurprised that neither of you picked me. I was hoping that you would see me win. But anything else either of you would like to say about your teams before we wrap up this unfortunate ending to both of your seasons?
Well, it's funny you say that neither of us picked you because there is a part of me that's not a small part of me that thinks, you know what? Let's just go chalk the rest of the way. Sahil wins the finals, so at least I'll feel a little bit like, okay, there's nothing I could have done. It was inevitable. No one besides Sahil was ever winning this year anyway. So me losing in the first round versus me losing in the semis doesn't make a difference. So there's a part of me that feels that.
It's an interesting take. I like that. It's an interesting take.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to say. Just can't wait for next year.
Yeah, no, it'll I always love a good fresh season, and I'm bummed that this season's wrapping up here, and I'm always excited when the new season starts. So I definitely agree with you there. But all right, I think that'll wrap us up here. Thank you, Erik, for coming on. Thank you, Cam, thanks to both of you for being willing to discuss your heartbreaking loss just not even 24 hours after it happened. It's I'm sure the emotions are still raw, but appreciate both of you coming on to talk about this. It was certainly fun for me. So
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for doing this.
Yeah. All righty.
I'm upset. 50,000 on my head is disrespect. So offended that I had to double check. I'ma always take the money over sex. That's why they need me out the way, what you expect. Got a lot of blood and it's cold. They keep trying to get me for my soul. Thankful for the women that I know. Can't go 50-50 with no hope.
This podcast is good.